How's it going, guys? I hope you guys had a great week. So I'm back today, kind of with a first impressions video, sort of. So as you all know, for the past kind of week, really since last Thursday, I finally got my PlayStation 5 and I've just been playing the console non-stop, really enjoying it. And I've been playing lots of Spider-Man Miles Morales and also Godfall. And today I wanted to actually weigh in a little bit and just generally give my first impressions on Godfall after playing roughly about 7 to 8 hours worth of the game. Now, a quick shout out, I do want to give a quick shout out to Gearbox and also Counterplay Games, who actually gave me a review key for the game on PC. So I've actually been playing it on both the PC and the PlayStation 5. So thank you so much for that review key. And of course, I'm going to be doing a full review of the game when I've played everything, finished the main campaign, and also delved into the end game content as well. But I felt I did want to sort of weigh in after playing about 7 or 8 hours worth of the game, because I've noticed over the last week, really since Godfall came out, that there's been a lot of hate against the game. So I just want to kind of give my own impressions and talk a little bit about it. So I am surprised by the level of hate. Most of the reviews of the game are not especially favorable. They're kind of scoring it a 4 or 5, sometimes 6 out of 10. And a lot of big game review sites like IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer, they're kind of sort of giving the game kind of a mediocre review and, you know, criticizing the game quite heavily, particularly when it comes to the story and also the mission structure and the repetitive nature of the game. So I want to actually weigh in. I am surprised by all the hate and I don't understand a lot of it. For me personally, while I can appreciate their views and their opinions, having played the game for about 7 or 8 hours, I've got to say I'm actually enjoying the game. I'm actually having a lot of fun with it, and I'm quite surprised by how much I am enjoying it. Godfall, for those who don't know, is an action looter slasher developed by Counterplay Games and obviously published by Gearbox. It is a high fantasy title in which you play as one of the main characters, a guy called Orin. You're betrayed by your brother at the beginning of the game called Macros and are kind of banished from your kingdom. And pretty much for the rest of the game, you're trying to regain your kingdom and take down your brother Macros to prevent him becoming a god and ultimately destroying the world. And that's generally what the story is. Now, yeah, I'll admit the story is pretty bare bones. It is fleshed out a lot more in codex entries. And yeah, it could be a little bit more detailed, but I've got to say the reason I'm playing Godfall is not for the story. I don't think it's a kind of game where you're going to expect an amazing story with amazing character development and everything to do with that. The world looks great. It looks beautiful. It's probably one of the most beautiful looking games on the PlayStation 5 right now. It really does showcase, 4K ray tracing in all its glory. And it does look really beautiful on both, the PlayStation 5 and also on PC. I've played the majority, I would say, on PlayStation 5, and you do have two settings that you can put it to, one of which is emphasizing ray tracing and 4K resolution, basically, and the other one is performance-based, where you can sort of not have as many bells and whistles, but you do get a really smooth 60 frames per second. I highly recommend playing it in performance mode. I think those 60 frames per second make all the difference, especially when it comes to the combat, and it's the combat that is probably the funnest part of this game. So let me talk a little bit about the game and what I've enjoyed about it and why I'm enjoying it the more that I'm playing it, and generally my first impressions. Now, of course, this is a first impressions video. It's not a full-on review. My opinion may change after playing the game for 15 to 20 hours, and I will be doing a full in-depth review, hopefully before Cyberpunk 2077 comes out on the 10th of December. because there's a very definite deadline on that, because once that game comes out, I'm going to be delaying nothing but that. So let me talk a little bit about it. Well, the main draw of this game is the combat, the Valorplates, and also the loot. Now, I know there's been a lot of criticism laid against the loot, particularly against the Valorplates. I think some people were hoping it would be a little bit more customizable, and the Valorplates are maybe not what people were thinking they were going to be. So there are 12 Valorplates that you can unlock in Godfall, and these effectively act like different classes. So you can unlock these Valorplates by collecting materials through exploration, defeating enemies, taking down bosses in, you know, each of the 3 realms that you can explore. And these realms are earth, water, and air. They're pretty cool looking. I really do like the visual design of it. At the moment, I'm exploring water, and that's the gameplay footage in the background, and I'm just really enjoying it. It's a beautiful looking game. So the Valorplates themselves, you actually can unlock them, and they do act like classes. So each of the Valorplates will have their own kind of various status buffs and their own special Archon abilities. So some of them will be very much geared towards, you know, inflicting poison and status ailments on the enemy. Some of them will focus on inflicting bleed. Others will focus on things like soul shatter and breach, which I'll get to later on. And certain Valorplates are better to use with certain kinds of weapons, depending on, you know, what their stats are. So I like the Valorplates because they do provide a lot of scope in terms of really sort of speccing your character, particularly when I imagine when you get to the end game. I like the look of the Valorplates. I think they look really cool. I like the design. They all look very distinct. I personally don't have a problem with them. And yeah, I'm actually enjoying it. So in terms of the weapons, there are 5 different kinds of weapons that you can use in Godfall. There's the longsword, which is kind of your beginning weapon, your really go-to weapon. It's your best all-rounder. So it's got, you know, good range, it's quick, it's fast, and it can do some pretty decent damage. You've got your dual blades, which is probably the quickest weapon in the game. Really fun. The polearm, which is a personal favorite. It's really good for sort of ranged attacks. You can even throw it at enemies as well using some of your special moves, and it's really cool. And then you've got your big heavy hitters. So your longsword, which has big sweeping movements and is more of a kind of a large area of effect weapon. And then you've got your warhammer, and that is just hulking. It's slow, but it does pack a massive punch. I've got to say, each of these 5 weapon classes are really fun and really varied, and they feel weighty. They feel very different and unique, and I'm actually really enjoying them. One thing I really like about the game is that you can actually equip 2 weapons at any time, and you can switch between these freely by pressing the triangle button, and that really does allow you to sort of balance your character with, say, maybe something a little bit more harder hitting and heavy like the warhammer, which will then be supported by something a little bit quicker, a little bit faster like the longsword, for example, or the dual blades. You get to really balance your character, and I really like that. The combat at first, when you first start to play it, is pretty brutal. The enemies themselves, particularly some of the boss fights, they really do pack a punch, and you will find that at the beginning of the game, you do die a lot. You know, you get used to dying a lot as you get used to the moves and mechanics and the different abilities. And also, once you start to unlock abilities in the skill tree, that does give you a lot more scope and abilities and things that you can use. One thing I will say is the PlayStation 5 with its special SSD solid state drive is an absolute godsend. When you are dying quite frequently initially, just to jump straight back into the action really does matter. So I would definitely imagine if there were longer load times and load screens in between areas, yeah, it would get really frustrating and really annoying. But I didn't find myself annoyed because I was straight back in the action, straight back in the rhythm, and could jump back into that fight straight away. And I actually really enjoyed it. Once you start to pick apart the combat, that's when the game really starts to shine, when you start to work out all the different mechanics. So as you are attacking enemies, obviously you can lock on them using the right stick. You have a mixture of light and heavy attacks, which is your R1 and R2 button respectively. Your light attacks do soul shatter damage, so they fill a soul shatter bar, which is kind of like your red bar with a white border around it. The aim is to try and get this filled, and then you use a heavy attack to basically activate that soul shatter, and that causes the enemy, if you've done enough damage, to splinter and fracture, which drops things like health and healing items, and also can also drop some loot and things like that, and it just looks pretty cool. Each of the weapons also has special weapon techniques. These come in two forms: northern and southern abilities. Your weapon techniques can be activated by holding down the L2 button and either pressing R1 or R2 depending on. So your northern will be your R1 move, that will do more sort of soul shatter build up, and then your R2 will activate that. So these abilities have a recharge, and they're really cool. You then have something called polarity as well, where you will start to charge up the weapon that is stored that you're not using, and once your charge meter is full, you can then switch to that weapon, and that will give you it starts off with like an area of effect which causes damage, and then you do an increased damage for a certain percentage for a certain number of seconds, and you can actually boost that with some loot and different customization options. So it's just really fun. Combine that with some things like weak points, where if you dodge and block or parry an attack, it will highlight a little red dot on the enemy, and that's a weak point. So if you move your cursor over it, you'll get this nice little shining sheen, and if you attack, you will do increased damage. I really like the weak point system because it does force you to be a little bit more tactical, a little bit more strategic with your moves and your attacking. Breach is all about heavy hitting attacks to try and fill up that breach bar, and it reminds me a little bit of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. So once you fill it up max, the enemy becomes staggered, becomes weakened, and you do increase damage to them as well. Combine your primary weapon with a really nice shield, which you can use to block or to parry enemies away. This can be used defensively, but it can also be used offensively as well. You can throw this at enemies, you can pound the ground with it, you can do a lot of damage with your shield. And I would say it's the combat that is the funnest part of the game for me. This game feels like a mix between God of War and Monster Hunter, in the fact that you go out into areas of the map and you will take out enemy targets or bosses or explore. You get loot, and then at the end of each level you come back to a place called Sanctum, where you can go through your loot, choose to level up certain pieces that you like, discard pieces that you don't like, and really customize and build your character. So in that way it does feel like God of War, but the combat is really satisfying, and it feels really great. It looks amazing. The sound is fabulous as well, especially if you're playing the game with your headphones on and you're taking advantage of that 3D audio. It does sound amazing. And then you even feel the feedback from your charging moves in the actual PlayStation 5 controller with the DualSense controlling. You really do feel that with the haptic triggers as well, and it's just a lot of fun to play. So yeah, I don't understand the hate that this game is getting. I've played about 7 or 8 hours and I'm really enjoying it. I haven't played any of the multiplayer online. And I haven't really looked at that yet. I've just been playing it through single player because I wanted to get to grips with it. But I am really enjoying it. And it's a nice game that you can kind of just jump in and out of really easily. So it's not a game where you have to sink 4 or 5 hours into the game. But I will say it is quite addictive. And you will find that you'll just be thinking, oh, one more. I'll just do one more game or one more match. So it's fun in that way. But I'm really enjoying my time with Godfall after playing it for 7 or 8 hours. I did want to give my general first impressions on it quickly, because I know obviously there'll be a lot of you out there that are a bit unsure of the game, particularly because of the reviews that are coming in. I'm having fun with it. I am planning to stream it on Thursday on Twitch. I'm actually going to practice or try to use the PlayStation 5's ability to stream on Thursday. I'll be doing that most likely around about 8 p.m. playing Godfall, where I can showcase some of these combat moves and different things that you can do in the game. So if you're still on the fence, you're not sure, then by all means tune in on Thursday on Twitch for the live stream, where you can ask me questions, see a little bit of the gameplay in action, and have a go. But yeah, just again a quick shout out, thank you to Gearbox and Counterplay Games for providing a review key for the game. Really appreciate it. And I will be coming out with a full-on review hopefully within the next week or two, once I get to finish it and obviously delve into the end games. I'm hoping I can bring that to you guys quite shortly. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it useful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, of course. Let me know how things are going. I hope you guys have a great week. Take care, and as always, happy gaming. Bye, guys.